There are numerous ways in which conflict can be managed. Kenneth Thomas from Conflict and Conflict Management described a 5-style system that has been proven to be effective when working in groups. He explains that when choosing a style, it should be based off of these 2 questions. How important is it to satisfy your own needs? And how important is it to satisfy the other person's needs? The 5 styles that can be chosen after answering the questions are avoidance, accommodation, competition, compromise, and collaboration. By looking at the table of conflict management styles, you can see that question 1 is listed on the y-axis and question 2 is listed on the x-axis. Avoidance is usually not the best conflict management style to use when working in groups. According to the table, it does not meet either the needs of the group member using it, nor the entire group as a whole. It really does not benefit anyone. It's basically the practice of saying nothing and dodging conflict altogether. However, there are certain circumstances that make avoidance a viable option. For example, if the issue is not very important and you not bringing up the point will not affect the group, it might be good to avoid the subject in order to evade conflict altogether. Sometimes it's just not worth it. Accommodation is more about meeting the needs of the group rather than your own needs, which can be seen when looking at the table. It can also be known as appeasement or giving in. This style is similar to avoidance, but basically means the member works harder to meet the needs of the group rather than their own. Accommodation is an appropriate style to use when the issue is not necessarily critical to your own good, but is important to another group member. When working with groups, a little bit of friendly competition is not always a bad idea, as long as it will not harm other group members or go against anyone's morals and beliefs. It is okay. However, it is not the best method to use when working in groups, as it is known as the win-lose style. When looking at the table, you can see that competition only meets the needs of the individual using it. Generally speaking, you want all members to win in order to create the best possible atmosphere. Adams and Galanis describe compromise as being a sort of middle ground when dealing with conflict management. Group members give something up in order to get something in return. According to the table, compromise is in the very middle, as it somewhat meets the needs of both parties. It's not the best method to use, but it can be helpful in certain situations, such as if there are deadlines to be met and not enough time to work through the issue. Sometimes compromise is the best case scenario. At least everyone in the group gets something to somewhat meet their own needs. Anytime there is conflict within a group, it is best to try to use collaboration in order to come out of it with everyone winning. Collaboration falls on the upper right of the table, as it meets the needs of everyone involved. It's a win-win. This style may take more time and effort, but in the end, everyone usually comes out satisfied. There are certain situations, however, that do not allow collaboration to take place. For example, when there is pressure due to time constraints, a group might not have the ability to collaborate in order to manage the conflict. In those types of situations, it's important to consider the other styles and choose the one that will benefit the group overall. The idea behind nominal group technique is that individuals work more efficiently when in the presence of others. The following steps make up the process of the nominal group technique. 1. You state the problem, situation, or question clearly. 2. You have the leader ask everyone to brainstorm a list of characteristics of the problem. 3. You allow everyone time to work quietly. 4. You list each suggestion on a board for everyone to see. 5. You allow members to clarify any suggestions that are unclear. 6. You have each member choose his or her first choice. 7. Engage the group in a discussion on each of the top choices. And 8. You reach a decision on which idea should be used. This technique has proved to be beneficial in many group settings, as it allows everyone to be involved in the decision-making process. It uses the collaborative style discussed previously, which results in a win-win situation for the group. The technique of principled negotiation, on the other hand, relies more on individuals finding a way to meet their own needs without damaging the relationships of the group. The following are tips to use when following the principled negotiation process. Be sure to separate the members of the group from the actual issue. Focus on interests rather than positions. Come up with new ideas and alternatives that will allow all group members to benefit. And lastly, be objective and use only neutral criteria. Perhaps one of the best strategies to use in order to solve conflicts in a group setting is to write up an official contract from the beginning. This can potentially deter conflict from ever being brought into the group, and if conflict does arise, it's a great solution to the problem. Having roles identified and defining those roles from the beginning is important in the group setting. By allowing each group member to know what they will be responsible for throughout the course of the project, things tend to run much more smoothly. Also, should conflict arise, the contract gives everyone something to fall back on. Everything's written down as reference so that nothing can be confused later on. By starting out with these written rules, it's likely that none of these styles and techniques discussed will ever have to be used. Now that we've established a solution to the problem and have discussed many conflict management styles, techniques, and strategies, let's discuss implementation of the contract.